Hey YouTube, welcome back to our channel. My name is Elena.
And I'm Bjorn.
And we are Viking Age reenactors and living historians here to talk with you about your favorite Viking shows.
Today we're taking a critical look at episode 19 of Vinland Saga. That was pretty great. I love how immediately he's just like, haha, let's be friends. Like, he's not connected. He doesn't hate the people he fights. He just loves to fight.
Exactly.
In every shape of it. So just him being like, he's just so jolly to do whatever's going on. I really love his attitude.
He's like a golden retriever.
They just want to play.
Yeah.
All day.
Yep.
Oh man, I love it.
Except for him, that kind of translates into killing people, but you know.
It's play. It's Viking play.
We keep getting really, really cool imagery in the show. The art departments definitely do their research when it comes to the Viking Age, and one of the things that we saw here that was kind of interesting and cool, granted it was a single shot, and it's not something that they extrapolated on, but it's something that I tend to pick up on a lot, is the ring fort.
So we've seen shots of Jomsborg close up and everything. I don't think we've ever really gotten a good view of the city or like the whole area of Jomsborg, so it's cool to see like the entire fortress. Now it's based on a ring fort, which we know, which is actually a Danish design. There's only you could count them on one hand. That's how many has actually been discovered. So they're very few and far in between. Actually, now that I say that, they're very few, but they're not far in between, because I'm pretty sure they're like all Danish. One might be some like southern Sweden, but at the time it was Danish territory. I'm not entirely sure. The Trellerberg Fortress is one of them. And there's like a few other that I don't know by name specifically. And they all follow a similar construction, and they're kind of made all around the same general time frame. It's believed or theorized that they might have been created by Harold Bluetooth, and people around then as well. So it is pretty great to see. But yeah, essentially it was a permanent military fortress structure. There'd be a huge ringed wall. Also, if you guys were watching our Wrath of the Druids, we did a bit of a tour around actually a ring fort, and we're talking about the construction. So it would follow a very similar construction to that. And then within it would actually be broken up into like quarters. So there could be like a longhouse in each quarter, or like 4 depending on the size of it, but they were massive. They were hundreds of yards across and just circle around in these strategic locations, and they were basically like a self-contained village but with military bearings. They would have stations where guards could walk the whole battlements and everything, and people could navigate easily between everything. They had roads that actually crossed straight through it from like north, south, and then east and west, that kind of like bisected and quartered the settlement itself, and so they almost had like districts essentially, we think. But there have been some amazing finds, and just it's an amazing development of Viking military prowess essentially. I made a note of this so when Thors was leaving Jomsborg, and Thorkel was talking to him about it being a death sentence essentially to leave without getting permission. I don't know if there was anything specifically written about in the Viking Saga or anything that talked about abandonment or just leaving would get you killed necessarily, but I mean, there was this idea that serving any kind of king or any kind of chieftain or jarl or something, you swore an oath to them to serve them. Abandoning that without kind of getting permission would essentially be breaking your oath to them, which would immediately put you up as untrustworthy person, one, but also, I mean, there could definitely be some legal ramifications. I honestly don't know of any like specific mentions or records of somebody breaking their oath to a king and abandoning him. On the opposite side, we've seen plenty of times of mentions in sagas, in the Icelandic sagas, where somebody, their whole life kind of gets upended and their plans get screwed around because a king binds them to themselves for years and years at a time and refuses to let somebody leave. And would you get fined or like lose wealth in a raid? Yeah, and I mean, like, I really think that like if you broke your relation with a king or with somebody that you've sworn that to, I think you would kind of stand to lose everything. They might begin to
piss off a king.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, just for obvious reasons necessarily, but I think there could be like really huge legal ramifications. But I mean, even if that's not the case, there still stands reason that even if they don't take it through like legal action, they could still deal with the exact same thing, even if it's just so much as, the king has one of his other subjects go and kill you, and then he grants you their land, essentially.
So I have a theory on that, even if it's not specifically a legal thing, because first of all, we're not even dealing with the king here, we're dealing with the leader of the Jomsvikings.
Right.
So there is a little bit of a difference in that respect, but we also have to kind of take into consideration that Thor's was supposed to be the next leader of the Jomsvikings. He was being kind of given that opportunity, and it could literally be not specifically a legal thing where if you leave us, then we get to kill you. It could be that you are going to anger him so much that he's just going to come after you.
Yeah.
It's just going to become a personal vendetta at that point. And it has nothing to do with rules or legalities. You're literally just abandoning somebody that considers you a close confidant and friend, and they're probably going to get pissed off.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, not to mention that you would be immediately branded a dishonest man and an oath breaker, which is kind of one of the worst things that could possibly, be put on a person, as a title.
Exactly.
To which point, like, you'd essentially kind of become somebody living in exile. Like, nobody would take you in except family who was kind of obligated to do so.
Which kind of is what happened with him.
Yeah, which absolutely is what happened.
He just set up a farm way far away.
Yeah, he took all this stuff and he went far enough away where he just took himself out of the picture. It became not worth it to send men after him, essentially, if he was to be discovered.
Yeah.
Because he was still living with the idea that he was dead.
Right.
So there was that. But
yeah,
I mean, legal or not, there were definitely bound to be repercussions, and we have historical documentation that kind of shows those actions taking place regardless on both sides of it.
Thorkel and Canute. I am so excited that they have finally joined forces, and in a way that I feel like we didn't see coming, because I remember a few weeks ago we were talking about how it would be possible for them to join forces by Thorkel kidnapping Canute and then just taking them with him and becoming fast friends or something. But in this roundabout way, Canute has come into his own. Now he has a personality, so that's fantastic. and Thorkel wants to go raiding with him. And yeah, I mean, that's very historically plausible, and the fact that Thorkel and Canute are together now is very historically accurate, and I'm so excited about it.
Yeah, I really do love how they kind of came to approach this too, because we've talked about their partnership for a bit. We've referenced it in a couple episodes, and in every situation that we've talked about it, it's always been very much like Thorkel taking in Canute and like taking Canute under his wing to show him how to be a Viking and everything like that. And this is so cool because it's totally turned that around, because it made a very like timid character like Canute come into his own and like become not only like this brave, up and coming, like well-spoken dude, but it's also made him into, without any experience, a better warrior than Thorkel, just simply based on his mindset.
Yeah.
And that's something that Thorkel then absolutely like admires and loves about him, and he readily signs on so that he can learn from Canute himself.
So he can
like
go with him.
Absolutely. Like I'm very sure that it's still gonna boil down to, Thorkel educating and teaching him some of the more basic, typical things of like how to fight and all these things, but like the mentality of what it is to be a true warrior, like it's very much, the kingly gift being bestowed on his subjects kind of thing. And I love that sudden complete 180.
And then the last point I have written down is offering life and payment. So Askeladd has admitted to killing Ragnar and immediately offered basically his life in return for Ragnar's death.
Yeah.
And that he is going to help Canute on his journey as well.
Yeah, totally putting himself at the mercy of the king, or the prince.
Yeah, and that's also something that could feasibly happen back in the Viking Age as well, where, first of all, if you killed somebody and you admitted to it within a certain amount of time, you then had a chance to pay off the family and or friends who cared about said person that got murdered.
Yeah.
Oftentimes it ended up with the killer being killed, but there was that kind of opportunity. What Askeladd did here, though, is he offered basically his life to Canute in return, and Canute immediately turns around and says, everything that you do will be in service to what Ragnar stood for.
Yeah.
And that's how you're going to pay off that debt, basically.
Yeah, that's how you're going to mourn his death.
And I love that.
That is
so much.
That is a kingly response right there. You know, it's one thing that Askeladd killed Ragnar and put himself in that position where, like, you can kill me if you feel it just, but if you don't, I will serve you, kind of thing. And I mean, that's just definitely a mentality a little bit on the battlefield too. You know, like, if you spared somebody in battle, they kind of owed you a life debt.
That is very
true.
true.
They owed you their life because you had the chance to kill them and you didn't. So you kind of like take them back essentially as a thrall or as a hand servant or whatever you want to call it. You know, depending on rank and importance and all that kind of thing. So, you know, in this situation, it's very much he's making a vow to the king and he's giving him his oath, but he's also like life bound and now additionally oath bound to, you know, serving Canute and acting in his best interest and everything too, which is just awesome.
Thank you guys so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you can be notified of our future videos, and we'll see you in the next one.